Welcome back to Passing Time with Craig. As always, I'm your host, Craig, and today I got to chat with Kalyn and Kimberly, who are the masterminds behind The Root of It All, which is a great documentary that I was lucky enough to check out. And keep an eye out for it because there'll be chances for you to see it on streaming. They teamed up with Tell a Story Hive, so we're going to talk about collaborating with Tell a Story Hive, their inspiration behind it all, and really just a collaborative lifestyle, what that's like to work with somebody and find that connection with a person. And we just had the most joyous conversation. It was so positive. They truly love each other. Like, they are such good friends, and I felt that, and I love chatting with both of them. So enjoy my conversations with Kalyn and Kimberly behind The Root of It All. Well, hello, ladies. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, Craig.
I'm so excited to chat with you both. We have so much to talk about. I got to watch The Root of It All. It's so good.
Oh, thank you.
So fascinating. I was like watching it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to tell my friend about it. Oh, I've got another friend. Like, there's so much to talk about it. But I want to start not completely from the beginning, but I want to ask each of you, like, first of all, where did filmmaking and being part of this industry come from? Like, Kalyn, we'll start with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. We don't often start with me. I feel like I'm that.
But a little should.
I'm a little bit more quiet. Sure. Yeah, I guess. So I started my education and I wanted to be a doctor. That was what I was going to do in high school. I was like, what is the thing that makes the most money? I can do anything. So let's pick the thing that makes the most money. So I actually started university in my Bachelor of Science degree and was in a theater full of, 400 other really, really smart kids.
Yeah.
And looked around and was like, I am not here for the right reasons. This isn't going to go well. So I actually stopped my degree. I took 2 years of just open studies.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, putzed around a little bit. And I was driving with my then boyfriend. We were going down the road and he said, Kalyn, like, what lights you up? And I was like, telling stories.
Yeah.
And so I ended up pursuing a degree in journalism. And yeah, I think the rest is history. I started working on film sets as a production assistant, and those were really, really long days.
Yes.
So I sort of made my way into commercial filmmaking, which is a nice balance of time.
Yeah.
But like a big creative push.
Well, and that's just it. Production assistant, been working on some of these sets. You're there for long hours. So you must have known, okay, this is for me, but not necessarily this long of hours. Like, it's a huge test. There's plenty of people who are like, I can do this. And there for like a week and like, nope, this is out.
For sure. Yeah. And I think being around people that were so committed to the craft, and seeing everybody in their specialized roles, it really brought about this idea of working together to bring a creative idea to life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Kimberly, when did you get into all this?
More recently, sort of. I was an arts kid, theater kid. I was like, I'm going to be an actor.
Yeah.
And when it came time to graduate and pick a major and all that, going into theater arts wasn't something that was really supported.
Yeah.
So I had to pivot, and I went into a Bachelor of Communications. I went the public relations side and then went onto a master's in environment. So I was like, okay, corporate comms, I can do that. Corporate comms and creating videos and writing and all the multidisciplinary artist skills that I wanted to bring into the world, but it was like a responsible way to do it.
Yeah.
I burnt out really bad in corporate Calgary. I'm really grateful for the time I spent there, but yeah, the halls of the plus 15s and stuff, it wasn't for me. And it wasn't until I reconnected with Kalyn here with the idea over The Root of It All that I thought, whoa, I can actually step into my multidisciplinary creative work a little bit better. And that's like all I think about now is making things and telling stories and working with Kalyn and with other creatives as a voice actor and a writer and a storyteller and a bit of like communications consulting. I also teach at MRU.
Yeah.
So like multifaceted, but filmmaking and storytelling is definitely where my heart lives. Yeah.
Just like being creative people, I get it. Like there's things you're going for and you're like, this seems to be the right trajectory. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to be an actor as well.
Yeah.
And I went to school for like radio broadcasting. So like, oh, maybe I'll do something with that. And I still use, obviously, I mean, I host a podcast, so obviously still use that stuff. But then realizing like, and took some classes out at Second City in Toronto. Super cool experience, but realizing that what I really like is just being creative and entertaining, which is now the podcast and then hosting trivia nights and all my events I do. Like, so I'm like, okay, I can still do it, but in my own way. And it's fun to do it that way, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's so fascinating how everybody seems to make, you carve out your own path, right? It just one foot, the next foot, the next foot. And suddenly you're in this place where it feels like this was made for me because it was.
Suddenly you're an award-winning documentary filmmaker and you're like, what? How did we get here? What happened?
So how did you two make this all come together? How did your relationship start and then realizing we can work together? Because sometimes you meet people and you've got a great rapport and friendship, but you're like, oh, but we can't actually work together.
Absolutely. I think that's, one of the things that we've set out intentionally in this journey together is friendship first.
Yeah.
And we've come up against that a couple of times where the friendship is always the most important piece. And I think that that's been our North Star in this whole journey. And I can truly say that Kimberly is by far and away one of my best friends. I'm very, very fortunate to have
and likewise.
Yeah. I have a really lovely support system and a lot of great friends. And Kimberly's definitely such a strong part of my life. So I really appreciate you.
We met in high school, though.
Wow. Okay.
So we weren't this tight in high school, but we had a class together in high school. We knew each other. When we graduated and went on with our lives, Kalyn made this cool little it's not really a micro documentary, but a documentary about like Alberta changemakers, would you say?
Yeah.
And she asked me to be in it from the perspective of my corporate comms head, because I was in environment and sustainability. And so I worked with her in that realm. And then after that, I was teaching at MRU and I was like, hey, you should come and speak to my class. And it was just like these little kind of meet cutes over the years, get together, catch up. And it wasn't until 2021, we were going outside a lot because, that's how we mingled with each other. We were walking our dogs. We would go for walks in Nose Hill and we would just end up talking about the stories that we wanted to tell. Yeah. Like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And have you ever thought about this? And then it was one fateful night in like October of 2021, I want to say. She sent me a link for Tell a Story Hive, and they were calling for Game Changers Edition documentary. And she was like, should we just like put something together and like have fun? Like, what else are we doing right now? It's 2021. Everything is like, what it is. And I was like, okay, let's put our money where our mouth is. We each grabbed a camera. I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah. Kalyn was a lot more experienced, at least certainly in camera op. And we played. Like, we took an afternoon, we played. We had this idea about food, and we wanted to tell a story that was going to unite people. Yeah. And what better place to do that than what we put in our bodies? And we all break bread over the table, no matter what culture you are. So we were like, hey, food, there's something here. And we put together this 1-minute pitch and a pitch package for Story Hive. And we were like, well, that was fun. Let's move on with our lives. And then a few months later, we got told that we got the grant for Story Hive, and then the root of it all was really, and thus our creative partnership was really born. Yeah. And it's been, 3 years now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I've had other guests on before, and talking about Tell a Story Hive. It's such a great thing. What was getting that support, having that funding? What does being involved with Tell a Story Hive mean to each of you?
Yeah, I think what I loved about Tell a Story Hive was the mentorship that they provided. And we worked with an amazing mentor, shout out to Eva Colmers, who really helped us shape the story into what it became. And then Tell a Story Hive really supported us with workshops, and they were just always there if we had questions or needed things. And then the promotion of things as well. So it was a really great foot in the door to start things off for our creative partnership, I'd say. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And I think even just the access to funding, I mean, the grant amount was $20,000, which is not a lot of money, but certainly more than nothing.
Yeah.
And gave us a really nice opportunity to go out and tell a story. And again, intentionally, we set out to do it in a really beautiful way, something that audiences would want to watch visually.
Yeah.
And so we crafted our budget around that approach. And I think, without that funding, we wouldn't have had access to a lot of the resources and the talent. And there's so much talent in the province for sure. And that grant gave us so much room in doing that.
We have to, you mentioned like visually beautiful and everything. It is so, like, instantly I was like, what am I watching here? Just an ad for Tourism Alberta. It's so beautifully shot. Just like some of the landscapes you got, just everything, the natural lighting, I was like, oh, damn, girls. Like,
shout out to Michael Janke, who was our director of photography. He is so talented, and his way of seeing and interpreting both the story and the world around him. Oh my goodness. He's such a lovely human being, and so talented too. I think we really,
The two of you together, I would say, were really you played off of each other so beautifully. And I was in front, so being in front of the camera is a whole nother thing. And just trusting that you two kind of had my back as I was interviewing these people was a really important part to mention too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that trust piece and that partnership, collaborating and creating together and knowing almost immediately where everybody just flows. You create space for everybody to bring their best forward.
And thank you for those kind words, Craig. That's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's, again, I loved it. I thought it was so well done. And but like you were saying, it's so important too, directors, directing and actors, making sure that they feel comfortable and getting it. But it's a lot more easier to, okay, well, let's do that again, because it's scripted, and we were like, wait, no, something wasn't working here. But this is a documentary. You have some planning ahead of time, but it is very much like, okay, you're gonna have this conversation with your guest in this segment here, and really just trusting that they're doing everything to make it look good for you, and you also being like, well, I want to make sure that I have everything they need, because if we get that nice spontaneous moment, we can't redo that. Right?
We did.
You both have to trust each other so much.
Yeah, that's well said. Totally. And it was a lot of me trusting Kalyn, honestly.
But likewise, and I think that's I think that comes to, the further I get in my career, the more that I realize that trust is such a crucial piece of the creative process. Even in scripted, you're trusting an actor to bring whatever it is of themselves to the role.
Yeah.
And you're all you can do is create the space for that performance to happen in whatever way, right? And I think we were trying to make sure that Kimberly could show up in an authentic way. And so again, how do you create the space for her to do what she naturally does, which is connect really well with people? And I think that, you really did. There were so many great moments with the people that we interviewed. There wasn't a lot for me to do other than just make sure that space was created.
So give us the quick, elevator pitch of what The Root of It All is all about. It is, you can basically say food, being smart, all that stuff, but tell us about it.
It's in a nutshell, it's an emotional journey looking at the people in Alberta who are changing our broken food system. Yeah. And it's really just scratching the surface because we only had 20 minutes to tell the story. So we spoke to who I like to call the masters of food craft, foragers, chefs, teachers, people who've quit their jobs and started homesteads outside of the city, people who have urban farms in the city and are creating programs around community-supported agriculture. Just people who are thinking differently about our food and the food that is on our plate and what becomes us. And really, what I noticed throughout this process is it comes down to the soil.
Yeah.
If you watch the film, you'll see how important the soil is to our connection to each other, to our connection to our food. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Going into this is just we think it's just soil, but there's so much more to it. It affects our biodiversity, our floods, our fires, all the things that we're seeing now. All of that comes down to the soil. So really getting to know who grows our food, can be one of the most pragmatic ways that we can look at some of these big challenges that we face as a collective.
Yeah. And you interview several different, you mentioned a couple of things already, but you interview several different people. So we're getting a bunch of opportunities to see different perspectives. Like you said, you got, I mean, like, just the pigs were so fascinating to me that they're just like, I was like, what are we, oh, like, and just letting them roam free, like cows, and just what they do by like knocking down like logs and moving things out of the way. Like, that was a game changer. And then you have from Light Cellar, you're talking about, because we are so seasonal, because you have we have the one woman who's doing a bunch of stuff with her family, the immigrant from Afghanistan, was it? Yeah. And I don't want to spoil everything for her. I want people to watch it.
Thank you.
But you do have just this variety of subjects in the 22-minute period.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were people, like, it was difficult to just really zero in on who were the key people that we wanted to tell the story. I don't know if you want to jump in on that.
Absolutely. And I think that going back to your earlier comment around, really just scratching the surface, I think we did because we spoke to such a broad, diverse group. Yeah. It wasn't really a huge focus on any one, topic in there. But again, kind of intentionally, we set out to talk about people that are changing our relationship with food. And there's so many different ways of doing that. So, I think the hope is that we can scratch a little bit more.
So what was the, like, for each of you, we'll start with you, Kalyn, what was the most surprising thing you kind of learned about while you were doing this documentary? Like, you mentioned soil and how much what was for you?
Everything. Oh my goodness. So I would say that my relationship with food has changed drastically, and even just how I understand, the little bit that I do around soil science. I think, prior to our filming, I thought, oh, a carrot is a carrot. I go to the grocery store and that carrot's the same as that one. And it's not true, right? That the soil that it grows in makes such a difference in the nutritional value and what you're actually getting in your body. But, more than that, I think I went into the project with this idea that, well, we live in Calgary and it's cold. That's the barrier to maintaining a relationship with our food. And that's not it. There's so many things that we can do around the seasonality here in Calgary and in Alberta. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Kimberly, it's really that piece around soil, which I had no idea.
Yeah. Was that the biggest surprise for you? Was there anything else that, like, whoa, what?
I think just the emotionality. I have big feelings in general as a person. You see that in the film too. But I can distinctly remember coming back from a day we had at Rebel Acres, which was the pigs, and they had gifted me with some amazing it's a type of cheese. It's kind of like it's a bovril, so like a chèvre, but from cow's milk. And I was sitting and eating it, and I started like crying because I was just like, this, I know who made this. I know where it came from. I've been to the land that it came. And it was just like this boom, 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 like dominoes, interconnectedness of, I'm so connected to this cheese that I'm eating on bread with some fresh tomatoes from the farmer's market. And it was just like everything clicked in that moment of like, maybe other people can get to know who grows their food and maybe they'll be crying over their cheese. It's very, very dramatic, of course, in true Kimberly way. But I think, what surprised me was just how interconnected this conversation is, how unifying it can be no matter where you're from or the type of diet that you have, or it just kind of transcends every single barrier that we think we have. It really, food unites us. It becomes us. It's a huge piece of our collective health. And I hope we can start seeing some more, some policies maybe that would bring that to light more, that would unify it more, that would incentivize people to get to know who grows their food a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit later, but like you think about, tariffs and everything like that and going on. So with food. And so it's like, okay, well, what can we do here to get some of these food? If we got the stuff that we love that's coming from the States or something, and it's now going to be super expensive. Okay, we must have people here. We must know somebody who can do it. Like, so that's what I was thinking when I was watching this, like, this is a very timely thing for it.
Yeah, a super great example is the Duchess strawberries from Sunterra Market. They're grown here. I'm not sure in the city, but definitely in Alberta.
Yeah.
You can get the most amazing, delicious strawberries in the middle of February that are greenhouse grown, sustainably grown. In Saskatchewan, they're growing bananas. Like, there are things happening in the food space. We just need to look.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up tariffs, and I don't know how much I can speak to this because I'm certainly not an expert on these kinds of things. But what I did notice when that came in is in a time where we're making this film and this story of like, ask where your food comes from, just ask the question. Now it's like right in front of our face. You walk in the grocery store and it's made in Canada and there's maple leaves and you see and you have the choice to support Canadian or Alberta farmers. So maybe there's some good there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I know you got to kind of look at it positive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now let me ask you. So this is what we learned while you were doing it. What did you learn about yourselves making this documentary here and like going through Tell a Story Hive and doing all of this? What did you learn?
It's like all I think about now is making films and really stepping into a more creative life for myself. I think that's what I learned is like with the right people, and believe me, it took a lot of people to make this. And we talked about trust, and certainly this partnership, you know, it's living a creative life in this province, in this city is possible. I think that's the biggest thing I learned. And it's like a one step at a time thing for me, but that's where I'm working toward a little more every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kalyn?
I think I would say documentary is obviously quite different than commercial or corporate filmmaking. And I think filmmaking in general has always felt a little bit out of reach, even though, you know, my 9 to 5 is still in the space of filmmaking. It's somebody provides me a brief and I go out and I make something, and it's a bit of rinse and repeat in that way. And so stretching in the space of making something that I wanted to make, you know, for my own being, if that makes sense. And then being able to do that, I think that there's something really empowering when you go out and you do the thing that you think maybe you can't, or that, well, I'm just not smart enough. I'm just not good enough. Whatever the thing is, right? Like these messages that we've told ourselves as we've grown up. And I think pushing my comfort and pushing myself to step into the things that I'm afraid of, and then coming out the other side and saying like, wow, okay. I mean, it was terrifying in certain places for sure. Even just using my voice, I think that that's something that I continue to explore is how do I start to express the things and actually say the things that are in me? How do I share that I have a perspective? And sometimes that's easy to do in doc is to rely on other people to say that. But even that in and of itself is a way of using your voice, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's just the learning is probably that it's okay to step into the things that you're afraid of, and 9 times out of 10 you'll come out even stronger.
Yeah.
Woo! 10 times out of 10 maybe.
10. Yeah. 10.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than something that you've made. People feel something when they watch it.
So I was just ask, you do something, you make this product, and I've talked to other filmmakers, I've talked to stage actors and musicians. You do all this work, and there's so much work to it, not just like going and filming and interviewing, but finding out who you're going to interview and then editing, and you know, you've got a great team for all that, but then you release it to the world, and it's been part of film festivals, so there's people actually watching it with you. What is that like for you? What are our feelings that first time you aired it to the world?
Oh. You were there. I wasn't even there.
It's true. I was there. Yeah.
And how was that?
I mean, again, I think it's a little bit terrifying in a way where you've held this thing for so long and you've put so much of your being into it, and stepping into the possibility that people will really not like it or it won't resonate is a little bit terrifying. And I think that that's part of the creative process for me, is being okay with that, because I think part of the reason that I've held back on doing something personal my entire career really is because I'm so afraid of what the audience will think, that it won't resonate, because the intention is always to move people in some sort of way. And the story that I have is like, oh, well, if it doesn't move them, then that must mean that I'm not, good at doing what I do, or that I don't have value in the space of filmmaking. And, maybe that's true in some places. Maybe I can't do X, Y, or Z, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure that actually matters. I think the intention or the point of it is to do the thing anyway, regardless of how it's received.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And if you can sit back and go, okay, well, I liked it. It's what I wanted. Cool.
Exactly. And I think another challenge for me has been to look at something and to see the gaps, right? You will always, I think you had another guest on here a few weeks ago, and they were talking about, always seeing the areas where there's room for improvement.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's true, right? How do you look at something and acknowledge that there are things that you could have done differently, but just honor whatever it is that you created and be proud of that, and then take those learnings and apply it to the next thing. So, yeah.
And like, are you more nervous to show it to a room full of strangers, or are you like your family and friends? Like,
it doesn't matter. I'm nervous every time. Every time we show it. And like I said, I wasn't there the very first time. I had a wedding to go to, and Kalyn held it down. But there have been other times where Kalyn couldn't make it, and I've had to go there on my own and do the panel on my own. And I'm nervous every time because I still care about it so much and the topic so much, and echo very similarly what Kalyn says. You create this thing, and it's like a child that you like release, and it's like, like it's Simba. No, it doesn't matter, because everybody's going to interpret what they want from it anyway. And so you have to kind of detach from it in a sense, but it doesn't take the nerves away, for sure not. And still, we showed it last week. I was nervous. We just got into Niagara, Canada International Film Festival. Not sure the details on a screening there yet, but I don't know. It's just every time there's an opportunity, I get nervous.
Yeah.
And every time I think this film has like had its day, we'll get another call for a screening or invited onto something, or there's another film festival that we get into that I've forgotten about. And it's like you said it the other day, like the little engine that could. It's like the little film that could. It just like keeps going. The subject matter is resonating for people, which is really encouraging. But it doesn't take away the nervousness of seeing it every time.
I was going to say, I was originally going to write down all the nominations, awards, and accolades this has gotten, but I was like, no, we don't want this under an hour long podcast. It's been accepted so well by audiences. People are really enjoying it. Like, must be more than you could have imagined, really, truly.
Truly. It's super touching.
Absolutely. I think we set out to have fun and to create something that we were proud of. And the fact that it has been received really, I think is validating in a lot of ways. But it's tricky. It's still tricky to step into that space of recognizing that people have enjoyed it, that it has resonated, and also, like Kimberly was saying, detach from that in a way, right?
And it sets the bar of like, okay, well, we're going to make something else. Is it going to be as touching? Is it going to resonate? We don't know. You have to move into that space in a different way. And so
I think, I wonder if straddling that tension of creating for yourself and also recognizing that, the point of creating is for somebody to watch it, for it to create change, or for it to do something inside somebody, to straddle that tension is in the way. I don't know. Maybe. No, there's something to it. And I hope that as we continue to create, that's that balance that we're always finding.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think, especially with documentaries, docuseries, everything like that, the filmmaker needs to have some passion behind it, or some knowledge, or want to learn. They might not know anything about it. Like, there's been some great documentaries where they're like, I knew nothing about this. Like, whether it was like maybe it was about a religious group, or being vegetarian, and you're like, I know nothing about this. I want to know, so I'm going to go ask these questions and learn. And I think that's the key to good filmmaking, especially when it comes to documentaries, is that you want to have some sort of curiosity and passion behind it, but you still need to. But then the challenge becomes, I need to make it universal for everybody, not just what does what did Craig want to know? I need to want to ask what I want to know, but everybody wants to know.
Yeah, and get the audience to relate to Craig or the host or however it plays out, I guess, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting, I don't know. Actually, as you say that, I'm curious to maybe hear from you in terms of where that idea comes from, because I think that is something where I'm constantly trying to find, again, that balance of I see something this way, therefore that's what I want to create versus it needs to resonate. Where does it come from?
I think it comes, I don't know. I feel it's just you. I think there's a part of it where if you have this idea or this question, it's like, well, I can't be the first person to ever wonder this. Like, and then sure enough, you Google something and all of a sudden there's like tons of results and like Reddit's coming up and you're like, oh, okay, so I'm not the first person. And then you're like, well, why can't I find more about this? Okay. Well, I want to know, like, now, because then you go deep diving more and you're like, I'm not finding, like, everybody's asking about this, but we still don't know enough answer. Or you find something, and I think there's been so many documentaries made, and a lot of times they're two people that you're like, oh, I don't understand this at all. I don't understand what you're saying. So how can we make it for the everyday person? And that's what I really liked about this one too, is that it's very approachable for people. There's nothing too crazy, and they're like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, I hear that. Like,
Yeah,
I hear
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that back.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I resonate with that too, because it's like, how do we reach the collective? The people who are conscious about their food, for example, it's like they're already going to the farmers markets and they already know these things. We're not speaking to them maybe, but if we can get someone who's never thought about it before to be like, I wonder where these strawberries came from, that's a win for me as a filmmaker and as someone who's passionate about the environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a huge win.
Yeah.
So what is the next step with the root of it all?
Ooh, what is it, Kalyn?
We have some time set aside. Can I share it? Yeah.
Sure, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. We have some time set aside over the next few weeks to put together another pitch that's related to the root of it all. I think for both of us, I could probably speak for you on this. Yeah, thank you. I think for both of us, there's a really strong desire to go deeper now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are very passionate about the subject, and so now that we've laid some groundwork, it always comes back deep groundwork roots. But we want to do more. We want to shift that dialogue, and I think that's where my question back to you came. Is where do people find their own way in navigating creating change and also creating for themselves? I don't know. It's fascinating.
I think I think we went into the root of it all seeing it as like, it could be a series, it could be a feature. We're not sure. So we do need to do some development work on where it goes. But we think we can agree that the story's not done and that there's so many more people in Alberta, across Canada, really. But how big do we want to bring the scope?
Yeah.
That are changing this relationship with our broken food system. There's policy we could get into. There's all kinds of places we could go with it. So I don't think the story is done.
Yeah.
But TBD on how and where that brings us to for sure. Yeah,
Because there's different, like, again, I lived it and I was like, I don't like when things get too long, but I'm also like, this was not enough for me because you just scratching the surface. But it's one of those things too. There was certain segments I was watching it and I was going, oh, like this friend of mine's going to love this part. And then this one's like, oh, this is where they're going to love this. Like there's the things that are just different for different people, what they're interested in and I think that's what's so well done and why people are really resonating with it is that they're finding the certain aspect that they're like, well, I can't do all this. I can't quit my 9-to-5 job, go start this farm and get all these animals and let the pigs, roam and do so much of it. But I could like pickle stuff. I can do that at my home. I can figure out all these different aspects. So I think that's what's really cool about it.
that's so great to hear. Yeah, that's really great because it is just small actions, right? What can you do? Can you plant a seed? Can you go to a farmer's market and shake a farmer's hand? Can you sign up for a community supported agriculture program? What can you do? And one thing that surprised me with the root of it all was it's an educational resource now, actually. So we sold it to a company called McIntyre Media, which is an educational streamer. I don't exactly know. It's in certain educational boards, post-secondary and public libraries across the country.
Cool.
But that educational piece, we did a talk in Nova Scotia to a bunch of high school students,
Wow.
and so it's come out as like kids. The kids are all right, Craig. They want to know where their food comes from,
Right.
and we want to help them with
Yeah.
this film. So that's been really, really cool, surprising part of it.
And I mean, you're talking about going all over like Canada and stuff. Like that's the thing. It takes place in Alberta, and we're kind of talking about, but there's still so much that's universal that can just be, oh, well, we also have seasonal changes. Maybe not as extreme as someplace like Alberta, but we're going through stuff like that. So learning the basis are really like, oh, we've got land that we could have these farm animals roaming kind of more freely. So it is a very, I think those are the other successful documentaries are the ones that's like very personal and small scale, but really just universal story.
The idea
Totally.
can be translated anywhere
Yeah.
across Canada, across the world, really.
Yeah. So, it's going well. It's successful.
Thank you.
How just joyous to find a collaborating partner. And collaborations just, I think I've chatted about this with other guests on the podcast before. You think about some of like the biggest movie stars and TV stars that just constantly work together because their projects are gold because they have, you got your Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. You've got Seth Rogen and all of his friends, Adam Sandler and all of his friends. You've got these people who are just like, no, we're just going to keep doing it because they're having fun together and it shows and it just brings joy. So that must be so nice to find this.
It's so true. Go ahead.
I was just you were pumping my tires earlier. She is so incredibly talented. She edited and colors everything that we work on, and I know it's a grind. She's an amazing director. She understands the technical aspects of visual storytelling. This film would be nothing without Kalyn. And she did mention our friendship. Like it's a really nice, safe place to create, to make mistakes, to learn, because I have a lot to learn, and Kalyn is just so gracious with me and my questions all the time. I'm very grateful.
So sweet. No, I think the friendship is always first, and I think that we've applied that to the process throughout. So we actually just finished filming another project about a month ago. We wrapped everything. And it was the same sort of guiding principle. Let's have fun while we're doing this. If we are not enjoying the process, if we're not enjoying the people that we're working with, if we're not creating community in what we're doing, might as well go home. There's no point. And so, Michael Janke has been an incredible collaborator. We've absolutely loved working with him. And recently we worked with Brock Davis Mitchell, who is another really talented director and director of photography in Calgary. And same sort of thing. I think the sets and the crew, I can't speak highly enough of the pieces that everybody brings and the pieces of themselves that they bring to our sets and what that means to the project in the long run. I always feel so I don't know what the word is, but devoted is not the right word, but it's that sort of space when you're looking at the footage in an edit and you recognize all of the contributions from every single person that has touched it up to that point. There's a sense of responsibility, I think, in crafting the story and creating community and partnership and friendship and a place where people can do their best work is really, really important to both of us.
Yeah, that intentionality, going into a project with certain intentions and bringing that, like you said, bringing that community and friendship above all else. It's a special thing, but it's like, I don't want to do it any other way now that we felt that,
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that goes, it extends to the people that we talk to. It extends beyond that, even to their families. We've created relationships with some of the people that we spoke to, their families. It keeps going. And I think that is exactly what we want to keep doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I've chatted before on the podcast plenty of times, just what an incredible film and TV industry we have in this city and this province. Like it's so fantastic. and it's whatever happens with Dudo's tariffs on productions. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, because for some, like, it just doesn't make any sense. There's no logic to it, because people want to hear stories from all over the world. But it's also like the Academy Awards has like best like foreign films, like categories. Like, those things need to come, and documentaries and everything, and especially documentaries where your budgets are usually so much lower than anything else, because it's just like, well, what can we do? And and you're not necessarily like hiring actors and everything. So documentary budget's already small, and you can't deal with tariffs for that.
I don't know how it's gonna work.
It makes no sense.
I don't. And then I come back to, like, maybe people will be more conscious of if they're watching a film. And again, cinephiles and people who are really passionate about film already are.
Yes.
But maybe it'll bring that conversation to the broader collective of, like, was this shot in Canada or Calgary? The film industry here, from my experience, has been so inclusive and welcoming. And anytime I'm like, hey, can we go for coffee and just chat? People are so kind to share what they know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that in other cities. I honestly don't. I'm just really grateful that it's like that here. The people that we've met, the mentors that we've had, and that goes both ways. I have students at Mount Royal now, and I feel a responsibility and a duty to help them and connect them to people and open doors for them, because people were so kind opening doors for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think on the one hand, it's a little bit sad that there may be the potential for less collaboration across borders.
Yeah.
I think that is unfortunate. And at the same time, I think that there's absolutely opportunity for us to look at home to see what we have here and to create projects in our city, in Canada.
Yeah.
There's so much talent.
And everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a big film world.
It is huge.
There's a big film industry in Europe. There's a big film industry in Australia. So maybe it's going to allow us to create relationships further internationally.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that's what I was saying to people recently, some friends. I was like, you know what? If I was on the Canadian Tourism Board, I would be getting rid of all the money that we use to promote down in the States. They already know what's happening with us. And I would go to maybe countries that they wouldn't necessarily think of. And like I think the Calgary Stampede this year might be massive, because of all the people who will be avoid not going to the States, or whether they're from Canada or not. So I think it's gonna be crazy this year. But I do want to I wrote it down because I want to make sure you get the Stickman Art for the Rebel Soul. You can send me the trailer for it. So it looks very different than the root of it all. But
It does.
Just, very like interesting and unique. Can you tell us quickly about that one? It hasn't come out yet, right?
It's so different than the root of it all, in terms of the approach. And so maybe, if you want to share a little bit about the premise.
The premise is Trevor Stickle is an artist in Edmonton, well known in the States, but not as well known up here. Yeah. And he focuses on musicians are his inspiration. We wanted to capture the realism behind his paintings, and it's very rock and roll. If you noticed, and bring something different to the screen that, like you noted, was very different than the root of it all. Trevor's story is really multifaceted. It's beyond just the art. What you saw was actually more of like a micro documentary, but there's obviously more to the story beyond it. So we made what we made with what we had, and Trevor and his partner Ray helped us to produce it. And we are excited that we're going to be bringing that to, hopefully launching that into some festivals. We'll see what happens to it, and hopefully extend the story further. So it really is a story about art and men's mental health and perseverance and pursuing your dreams. But it's another local Alberta story. Trevor grew up in Edmonton and has roots in like Tabor, Alberta, and has oil and gas background, but then kind of dropped everything and went full time into art. And his art is incredible. And it all starts with just a pencil and a canvas. And I think looking at it, you're not really sure. You're like, is that a photograph? Is that AI? What is that? No, it's paint and pencil and true art in the most grassroots
Yeah.
form. So he's an incredible human. We're really, really honored that we got to tell part of his story. And I guess we'll see what
Yeah.
happens with Stickman.
I know it looks really good, but I noticed that I'll ask you to speak on this because especially doing like commercial projects and stuff, you have great directors of photography and cinematography, but even with something that's a real story, you do have to have a different kind of look to it. You know, sunshine, brightness, trees for root of it all. This one, it's more rock and roll, so maybe a little bit darker. Like, do you instantly know exactly what you want to see when you're making these?
I don't think so. And I love that part of the process, that pre-production and exploring an idea. Trevor came to us with an idea about, painting on stage. And that was sort of the playground for us in terms of telling his story. And so, with the root of it all, we drafted a treatment. We wrote out a script as much as, of course, we could follow that. And we did the same thing with Trevor. And yeah, I mean, I love looking at what it is that you're trying to say and then how you put the pieces together to create that story to, not just use the words that somebody's saying, but how do you visually say that? How do you do that with movement and editing and music? And I mean, it's interesting because I think the hope was that maybe it would push a little bit further. I think I'd intended for the edit especially to be a little bit further outside of my comfort zone. And I can still see pieces of it where it's like, okay, I've there's certainly a way that I work through editing. But I mean, it's very different and it's different on purpose. And I love that. So
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see more of it. Like, I'm excited to see everything y'all do because
thank you.
honestly, the root of it all was
Craig.
so fantastic. And people can just find you all on Instagram to see screenings and everything when they'll be happening. So it's just the root of it all.
Yeah, it's the.root.of.all. Yeah,
It all, yeah.
Period
Between everything.
Yeah, period between everything. That's fair. People can find that.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll send links to it. But yeah, it's so good. As we start to wrap up, though, I do like to ask my guests to tell me something that's awesome. I mean, you're both super awesome. This documentary is awesome. But tell me something that's awesome. Kimberly, we're going to start with you.
You're pretty awesome too.
Oh, thank you.
But that was what first came to my mind when you asked me that question is my dog.
Oh, what
I
kind of
know,
dog?
I know people say, oh, dogs. Dogs are so awesome.
Dogs are so awesome.
And my dog, her name is Veda, like Darth Vader. You see her in the root of it all. She is a rescue from Texas. She was a street dog. She had a really rough start. We rescued her in 2021, and rescuing that type of dog, she's like a Staffy bully breed, comes with all kinds of stigma that I had no idea comes with that. So that's turned me into a bit of an advocate for these kinds of dogs. Like she was chained to a tree from what we know the first year of her life, and she was really scared, and she's just come such a long way.
Yeah.
And she's so sweet, and she's the purest love I've ever known, and she's just so awesome. So yeah, Veda.
That is awesome. That is not enough people say dogs on this, but Kalyn,
Oh, that's tricky. There's. Am I allowed to?
you are allowed to. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I would say that the first thing are my two daughters. So I have a 10-year-old named Acacia and a 7-year-old. Her name is August. And they are, they're the reason, not that I get up every morning, but certainly the reason that I want to show up better in the world. It's like that little cherry on top to, make the world a better place for sure. And then I would say just the general space of relationships. I think that there's so much power in relationships and creating stronger, healthier relationships. And, even a relationship with myself so that I can relate really better to other people, just relationships and the power within that. So, yeah.
That is awesome. I'm going to plug another podcast, which is no need because she's huge, but Amy Poehler's got a new podcast. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Good Hang. Mm-hmm. And she just interviews different people. So first one's with Tina Fey. She's had Jack Black, Paul Rudd. She just had Michelle Obama on. It's so good and it's just so wholesome. But there's a moment in almost every single one where she asks her guests about how important female friendships are to them, or even with Paul Rudd asking about his male friendships and and I was like, oh, nobody really asks men about male friendships, Ray. Like, we've been really good with starting to focus more on female friendships, but it was that was like, oh, nobody really asked about that. And I'm just like, friendship's awesome and like it's so important. So I think it's relationships are just sometimes we don't give them all enough credit, especially non-romantic relationships and non-familial relationships. I just think friendship relationships are so important.
Maybe more stories about friendships more
Yeah.
than like romance would be
Yeah.
a good place to go, hey?
Yeah, I think so. I think just more celebrating friendships. I think it's nice.
I love that.
No.
Oh,
May we ask back something that you are.
ooh, something that's awesome. Okay, my thing is, it's been a couple weeks now, but my younger brother just had his second child. Well, my sister-in-law had their second child, so I now have 8 nieces and nephews all together, and I just love being an uncle. It's the most awesome thing. I just adore every single one of them. You can see all their photos up on the fridge there. I just love being an uncle. It's so awesome.
Oh, congratulations
Yeah,
to her and your brother
Yeah.
and you as well. Yeah. Kids are so special. The way that they see the world and that ability to then, bring it into the adult space of some of the things that maybe we've lost along the way sometimes. But yeah,
I think
congratulations.
kids need good uncles and good aunties too. That's a really important part
I agree.
of the story.
I think it's super important. So I love being an uncle. Love that I can also be like, okay, well, now I'm out. Enjoy all that sugar I gave them. Bye. The best part about being an uncle.
And they love you for it.
Yeah, they do. They do. It's great. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you both. This has been such a joy. I love chatting with you both. And I hope people get to see this and just, learn something.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for having us and keep doing what you're doing. You're making a big impact in Calgary yourself too.
Oh.
So
100%. Yeah, we appreciate you and we appreciate being here today.
I love a good love fest. This is fantastic. Best podcast in a long time. That's right. Next guest, you need to step up your game. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Kim and Kalyn, for coming on to chat about the root of it all. Such a great thing. Absolutely loved it. I wanted to let everybody know that it is available at a free screening or June 21st at the Light Cellar. So if you are available, you should definitely go check that out. Otherwise, follow them on Instagram, The Root of It All, to keep up to date where you'll be able to watch in the future. It's such a great film. I absolutely loved it. Make sure to follow me on social media at PTW Craig, Passing Time with Craig, for all the fun ways to pass the time. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye.